Good morning, everybody. It's not even 7 o'clock in the morning yet, but the sun is starting to come up here in Fort Lauderdale. Let me show you my beautiful, beautiful view. Look at that. Wow. Too bad there's a boat right here, but I don't know if we'll get to actually see the sun, but we sure can see the sunlight, and that is so, so pretty. I'm the only one enjoying it right now. Good morning, good morning. Oh, there's my girl. Hi, Spirit. Look at this beautiful sunset. It is nice to get up and enjoy an early morning. I wanted to come out a little bit earlier because it looks so cool at first light, when it's no longer dark out, but it's not light either. Yes, Spirit, it is a new day full of new opportunities. Yes. Oh, I love you for your beautiful, optimistic view. I feel the same. Had a pretty bad night, though. I don't know if you saw my the live I did for my members. I let it all out. I've been going through some stuff where people are talking bad about me behind my back, and it's never nice when that happens. I agree, Spirit, and for that reason, I thought that I would read you guys a little bit of little Bible verses to get through the situation that I find myself in. Oh, you saw it? Okay. All right, well, we're going to see what the Bible has to say about gossip. Proverbs 11:13. Whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy in spirit keeps a thing covered. This verse highlights that gossipers are untrustworthy and betray confidences. Yes, this too shall pass, absolutely. Proverbs 16:28 tells us that a dishonest man spreads strife, and a whisperer separates close friends. It's a very divisive thing, gossip, talking about people badly. Ephesians 4:29 says, "Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear." We can talk about things that lift us up instead of things that tear others down. James 3:5. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How great a forest is set ablaze by a small fire, and the tongue is a fire, the world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the course of nature, and set on fire by hell. It's destructive. It's destructive. Gossip is never good. And you are totally right, Spirit. It's a new day and new opportunities. And I know who I am, and I know who God wants me to be. And I strive to be that woman every day of my life because He expects it of me. And one of the things that I'm doing right now is becoming a publisher, publishing other people's books, not just my own. But I will show you my own book. Do you think about me on my birthday? Ah! This book was 40 years in the making. 40 years. Almost a lifetime. I will be 60 this year. So having this book already finished and published is a huge milestone for me. Discernment, thank you. Um, it's a huge milestone for me to have finished this book, to have written it. I wrote it throughout my life. I started writing this book actually when I was 18 years old. I'm sorry, 19 years old in college. And I'd never stopped. Writing, writing, writing all the time. That's how it is when you write a book. It takes a long time sometimes. On the other hand, there are times when, as a writer, I could write things so quickly. Yeah, I myself couldn't believe it. And parts of this book were written quickly, but a book is hard to do. And look how big this book is. That's a very hefty spine. That's more than 360 pages. Yes, welcome everybody to this beautiful morning. Morning has broken like the first morning. It's beautiful out here. The sun is just starting to come up and it's not super hot yet. So I've been babysitting a couple of big dogs. Hi, Linda. Good morning. And I'm gonna have to take them on their walk soon. I like to walk the dogs when the first thing in the morning before it gets hot. It's been so scorching hot here in Florida. I don't know about where you live, but let me know. Has this been a hot summer? Some people think that it's hotter than normal. I think it's just summertime, and it gets hot in the summertime. But it is a Monday, and you know what they say about Mondays. Can you believe this beautiful scene that we have here? And the reflection on the water just makes it so calming and peaceful. You see, look, the sun is coming through. Look right there. There it is. Sun, 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 here it comes. There it is. It's peeking through the trees. Oh, it's glorious. Did you know that when you get the first light of the sun in your eyes, it's very good for you and it'll wake you up? There it is. There's our sun. It's so beautiful. I didn't sleep very well last night, but seeing this view this morning, it does give me hope. It shows me that it's a new day and that God loves me very much. And that's really all that matters, is his love for me and what he thinks about me. People are fickle, but God's love is forever. I thought I would read to you a little bit from my book because I have been working on it lately, getting ready to go back up to Pittsburgh for a book signing, which is very exciting for me, but it's also a little bit scary because this book is about my life. I'm just going to read an excerpt from it. I also like to think that this book is a trip back into the 80s. Wow, people just come on here and feel like they have to say really nasty things. You don't even know me, Google person. I'm just gonna get rid of you. That's so... Why? Why do people feel the urge to come on a stranger's show, someone you don't even know, and call them delusional? I mean, really? It's so unnecessary. Why do you have to talk badly about people, even to their faces? It's not a very nice world when people behave like this. All we need is love. Do, 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 do. All right, I'm gonna read to you while we watch the sun come up. What do you think, Spirit? Shall we just do that? I'm going to read you a scene from my book. And this chapter is called, yes, IQ is low, exactly. All right, exactly, thank you. So this chapter is called The Leeward. All right, are you guys ready for your little early morning story time? It was 8 o'clock in the morning of a brilliant June day in the summer of 1983 when Leah and Allie, who had graduated from high school the day before, woke up to find themselves just 10 minutes away from the Jersey Shore. Leah's mother had enlisted her friend Nora to drive the girls there in her van the night before. Worn out from attending several graduation parties and saying their farewells, the girls had climbed into the van at midnight and quickly fell asleep on the mattress in the back. As the van crossed over the bridge to her favorite New Jersey island, Leah squealed with excitement and began talking non-stop. "Look, Mommy, there's the billboard for the Sandcastle Suites. Look, Allie, roll down the windows, Nora." The briny sea air streamed into the van and Leah inhaled deeply. "Bowling alley, welcome to our new home," she declared. The van approached the middle of the 18-mile-long island, and Nora asked from the driver's seat, "Which way should I turn?" "Go right," shouted Joanne and Leah with broad smiles on their faces, each remembering happier days when they came to the island as a family. Beach homes with yards made of sand and stone lined the boulevard that stretched endlessly before them. But Leah kept her eyes glued to the east, eagerly anticipating her first glimpse of the ocean from a side street. Nearly half an hour later, the van turned left off of the boulevard and into the middle of the tiny island town of Coastal Haven. Lining both sides of the street were Victorian houses, and several were advertising rooms for rent. In early June, the island was still quiet before the summer crowd set in, and they saw few people. Turning onto the beach road, oceanfront motels began taking over the neighborhood. Leah eventually directed Nora to pull the van into a parking space in front of their beloved Sandcastle Suites. "This is the place." As soon as the van stopped, she threw open the door and jumped out onto the rocky parking lot. In the next moment, she was running top speed towards the beach with Allie right on her heels. When they got to the top of the dunes, the girls could see the ocean waves curling lazily as they spilled onto the sand. Leah and Allie kicked off their shoes and sprinted towards the water's edge. Standing on the wet sand as waves advanced and retreated around their ankles, Leah told Allie, "This is where I belong. We're going to have the summer of our lives." Thoughtfully staring at the sea, she sported a brilliant smile on her face as the wave spent itself upon their feet. After a moment of sea and sun-soaked bliss, Allie broke the silence. "I guess our next move is to go look for a place to live." "Those boarding houses look nice. Why don't we start there?" Leah suggested. "Sounds like a plan," replied Allie as they tore themselves away from the sparkling surf in time to see Nora waving for them to come back. Look at that sign. Their wet feet quickly became sandy as the girls trudged towards the dunes and the exit to the street. At the van, Nora told Leah, "Your mom just went to check in and get our room key." They started unloading Nora and Joanne's luggage, leaving the girls' suitcases in the back. The plan was to get the girls settled in their new place, wherever that may be. Joanne returned with the key, and the girls helped to bring up the luggage to the second floor. "I sure hope you two find your place today, but if you don't, this room is big enough for the four of us," she noted. "Not to worry, Mom," said Leah. "I've got a good feeling about those Victorian rooming houses." "Yeah," Allie chimed in. "We want to get started right away." "How about some breakfast first?" said Joanne. It was more of a command than a question, and Leah knew better than to contradict her mother, so she shrugged her shoulders and covertly rolled her eyes at Allie. "Okay, Mom." In the coffee shop, Allie looked around, observing, "This place is pretty nice. I wonder if this is where I'll be working." "Does Bart know you're here today?" asked Leah. "No, I just told him I'd call when I got settled," she answered. When the waitress came for their order, Allie asked her, "Do you know where Bart Wallace would be?" In a strong South Jersey accent, she replied, "Bart? Oh, he's probably in the office with his dad. You a friend of his?" "Yeah, I just got into town." "Well, if you want, I could call him for you," she offered. "That would be great," replied Allie. The waitress took their orders and went into the kitchen. 10 minutes later, Allie's friend Bart arrived, carrying their breakfasts with him. "Hey, good looking," he greeted Allie. "Bart!" she squealed and jumped out of her seat to give him a hug hello before introducing him to everyone at the table. "So what are you guys up to?" he asked them. "Did you just get in this morning?" "Yup," answered Allie. "After we eat, we're going to look for a place to live." "You should check out those boarding houses in the middle of town," he suggested. "That was our plan," Leah answered. "Can you recommend anything?" Joanne asked him. "Well, a couple of waitresses live in the Avonlea house, but I heard that the woman who runs it is kind of crazy, and they've been thinking about moving out. Then there's the Tupelo house. That's a nice place, but it might already be full. I don't really know anything about the Leeward," he told them. "Well, that's a start," observed Nora. "Listen, I have to get back to work," he told them before turning to Allie. "Why don't you come on back when you get settled, and we'll see about that job." He waved to the rest of them and left the coffee shop. "Very cute," Leah whispered to Allie. "And rich," Allie whispered back. "Leah, honey, why don't you ask Bart to hire you too?" Joanne suggested, a little too loudly for Leah's comfort. "Mom, I could never be a waitress or a chambermaid. Just who do you think you're talking to?" "You've got a point, honey," she agreed and started laughing. "What's so funny?" Leah asked her. "I was just imagining you as a chambermaid, cleaning toilets and making beds." Joanne couldn't stop herself from giggling at the thought. Leah felt like getting mad, but then she had to admit it was funny and started laughing too. In fact, it was the first good laugh she'd had in months, and she reflected that her life was definitely taking a turn for the better. "Oh, look at that sun now. Ooh, it's out." "I'm going to hit the beach if you three don't mind," announced Nora as she stood up. "Good luck with your house hunting," she said, handing Joanne the keys to her van. "Thanks, Mrs. Donovan," the girls replied in unison. Joanne paid the check and led them out of the coffee shop and into the blinding sunshine. All three put on sunglasses and started walking down the street back to the van. Once inside, the heat was stifling, and they rolled down the windows to let the air in. "Let's find you a place to live," she said as she maneuvered the van down the street. 3 homes on the block between North Bay Avenue and South Beach Avenue were all majestic Victorians, yet in their triangular locations to each other, the Leeward hulked larger than the two. Each house had a sign next to its front door which read, "Pre-1900s." The Leeward sign merely confirmed its ancient appearance, while the other 2 homes wore their signs with pride, like aged movie stars who've had plastic surgery and gotten even better throughout the century. The painstakingly painted blue and white Avonlea house across the street seemed to be a busy place, if only because of the white lace curtains waving in the breeze. Looking dingy and unkempt in comparison to its elegant neighbors, Leeward's dull hippo-gray exterior made the house look deserted, despite the towels of its boarders hanging on the fence that separated its yard from the empty lot next door. Leeward also lacked the charm of the butterscotch-colored Tupelo house across the lot, which featured hanging baskets dripping with brightly colored blossoms and white wicker chairs on its spacious veranda. Joanne parked the van in front of the Tupelo house. The girls jumped out, and right away, Leah noticed a no vacancy sign. "Bert was right," she said. "Why don't we try Avonlea House?" The 3 of them headed for the charming Victorian across the street, and once on the porch, Joanne pointed out a familiar sight. "Look at that. They have a rocking chair just like the one you have in your room." "I hope that's a good sign," Leo replied before knocking on the edge of the screen door. An obese elderly lady came to the door and peered at them through the screen. "Do you have a double room available?" Joanne asked her. "Sorry, girls, I only have a single left," she informed them in a South Philly accent. Leah and Allie looked at each other and shrugged. "May we take a look at it?" asked Allie. "Come on up," she said, and they all followed her up a thin, impossibly steep staircase. The old woman breathed laboriously as they approached the top at a snail's pace before pointing them in the direction of the front of the house. "That's the room at the end of the hall," she rasped. Impressed with its quaint interior, the girls looked around the small room and sighed. "It sure is cute in here," Allie observed. From the end of the hall, the woman started yelling, "I have very strict rules here." Then she moved closer to Joanne, who was standing just outside the tiny room. I had to kick a girl out last week because she had a boy up here," she confided before raising her voice again. "There ought to be no guests in the house under any circumstances." Leah and Allie looked at each other, horrified. Joanne also momentarily wore a look of surprise before asking the woman, "Well, how much for the room?" $60 a week, she answered. "It's due every Friday, no exceptions. You miss a Friday, you're out of here," she warned loudly. "Forget this place," muttered Allie to Leah under her breath. The two girls walked out of the room and shot a look at Joanne. "Thank you very much, but I think the girls would like to stay together," she told the woman, who shrugged and started slowly plodding her way back down the stairs, with the three of them trailing like ducklings in a tar pit. When they finally got back onto the porch, they noticed a fat man, much fatter than the woman, reclining on the wicker love seat. It was barely large enough to hold him. "Are those girls gonna move in?" they could hear him asking the old woman as they stepped onto the sidewalk. "No," they heard the fat lady yell from inside the house. "Damn," they heard him reply. "I'm glad you're not moving in there," declared Joanne. "That man was really creepy." "Shall we try the Leeward?" asked Leah. "Might as well," said Allie, and they crossed back over the street and headed towards the old house. An Indian man with a turban on his head answered their knock at the door. "We're looking for a room for the summer," Leah told him. "For the both of you?" He spoke in a thick Indian accent. "Yes," she replied, her fingers crossed for luck behind her back. "I do have a double room available. Would you like to come and see it?" At the foot of a long staircase, the man pointed to the door directly to the right of them. "That is my apartment, but I don't come down here much more than 2 or 3 weekends a month. The double rooms are upstairs. You can go ahead and take a look," he told the girls. "First door on the right." They headed up the stairs and opened the door to the room. It smelled musty and salty, but there were 2 beds, 2 night tables, and 2 dressers. One window faced the eastern side of the house, which was next to a parking lot that faced the large stone church across the street. The room was sparse, but it had all the basics. "It's perfect," Leah whispered to Allie as they poked their heads into the closet in the corner. Standing outside the door, the Indian man pointed out, "The bathroom is on the right and everyone on this floor shares it." "How much?" asked Joanne as she peered into the dismal-looking bathroom. $45 a week for each and 1 week rent deposit, he answered. As Joanne went into the bathroom, he asked, "How old are you girls?" 17, answered Allie. "That's a little young to be living on your own, but if your mama says it's okay, then who am I to say it's not?" The girls nodded at his words, glad that Joanne was inspecting the bathroom at that moment and didn't hear him. "How many other people live here?" Joanne asked as she came back into the room. "Right now there's just Doug. His room is in the attic. Wait, I'll go see if he's home." The man disappeared down the hall and the girls sat down on the bed nearest the doorway. "I don't know, girls." Joanne was looking around with a fearful expression. "Oh, come on, Mom," Leah started whining. "The landlord said he's hardly ever here," Joanne worried. "Who's going to keep an eye on you?" "Don't worry, Mrs. Stern. We'll keep an eye on each other," reassured Allie. Before she could make any more objections, the Indian man came back with a very tall, good-looking man wearing jeans and a t-shirt. He appeared to be in his early 30s. "This is Doug," the man told them before clapping his hands to his forehead. "Oh, please forgive me. I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Sultan Patel." "I'm Allie, and this is Leah," said Allie. "Joanne Stern, nice to meet you." "Doug takes care of things while I'm not here," explained Sultan. "Don't worry about the girls, Mrs. Stern," said Doug, noticing her worried expression. "I'll keep an eye on them for you." Well, she looked at the girls and they smiled sweetly back at her, hoping she'd give it in without too much of a struggle. "You can move in today if you want," Sultan added. Leah gazed longingly at her mother and suppressed the urge to beg until Joanne finally succumbed. "You win, kids. Let's go get your things." "You must first sign the lease," said Sultan as he headed back down the stairs. "Please follow me." They trailed behind him into his stark apartment, which was much larger than the single white doorway had suggested, stretching all the way back to the back of the old house. At Sultan's kitchen table, each girl signed the lease and paid the deposit. "Welcome to the Leeward. I hope you will be happy here," he told them. "Thanks," they answered in unison. Once outside the house, the group walked down the street towards the van, which was still parked in front of the Tupelo house. "Oh, that wasn't too difficult," Allie remarked. "No," said Joanne, tears beginning to shine in her eyes. "The difficult part is just beginning." Joanne helped the girls unpack for a while before announcing that she was heading back to the motel. "I'll meet you back here at noon for lunch," she told them, dabbing at her eyes. The moment the door closed, the two girls dropped everything they were holding in their hands to do a victory dance, but they waited until they saw the van pull down the street to scream before they screamed at the top of their lungs, "Freedom!" Leah looked at Allie, a huge grin on her face. "To hell with unpacking. Let's go to the beach." Wow, look at that cloud formation right now. That reminds me of someone. Who do you think that cloud formation might remind me of? After nearly 45 minutes of baking their bodies on the beach, Leah and Allie dutifully rolled up their towels, knowing that making it on time for lunch with Mom was the final test before being left to fend for themselves. Gingerly walking barefoot back to the Leeward, they encountered a young man riding towards them on a beat-up old bicycle with long, deep handlebars. He wobbled precariously, balancing what turned out to be, upon closer inspection, a case of beer. He cycled towards the girls, and his face broke into a grin beneath a thick, bushy mustache that bobbed up and down as he greeted them. "Hello, ladies." He looked happy and friendly, so the two girls grinned back at him and didn't say a word. Never getting off the bike, he began to circle them slowly as they stood there on the street. "Name's Stuart Bonaventure. Want a beer?" He began pulling a can out of the box, still pedaling his bike in a wide arc. "At 11:30 in the morning? No thanks," Leah told him. Allie laughed and asked him, "Where's the party, Stuart Bonaventure?" He grilled sheepishly. "At my house. Want to join me?" "I don't think so," replied Allie, shooting a sideways glance at Leah. The two moved onto the sidewalk after his next pass, leaving him to circle the street by himself. "Hey, don't be afraid of me," he called to their backs as they walked to the porch and up the steps. "I'm not going to attack you or anything." At that moment, the door swung open and out came Doug. He waved to Stuart, said hi to the girls. "Do you know him?" Allie asked Doug. Doug laughed. "Who's Stuart? He giving you a hard time? Don't worry, he's harmless." Stuart had stopped circling by this time. Lifting the box off the handlebars, he dismounted from his bike and let it fall noisily, landing halfway on the curb, halfway in the street. "Do they have names?" He pointed to the girls as he walked up the porch steps and tossed a can up to Doug. Doug pointed to the petite blonde, Allie, then the leggy brunette, Leah. He said to them, "I guess you already know who he is." "Sort of," said Allie. Stuart sat down on the steps and opened his beer. "Sure you don't want one?" He lifted his can towards Allie. "I got plenty." Leah shifted her eyes towards the street. "My mom's going to be back soon," she reminded Allie, just in case she had any ideas about accepting that beer. "You're staying here with your mom?" Stuart asked Leah before bringing the open can to his lips. "No," answered Leah. "My mom is staying in a hotel and she's leaving tomorrow." "Which means you better take your beer and go find another porch to hang out on if you don't want to see these girls go back to Pittsburgh with her," Doug advised. "Pittsburgh, huh? Never been there," he said as he picked up his case of beer with the open can perched on top and got on his bike. Leaning the case on the handlebars, he chugged the rest of the can and tossed the empty to Doug. "See you around," he told them. With a backward wave of his hand, he headed off down the street towards the beach, looking like a big kid on a little bike. Allie and Leah raced up the stairs to their room, eager to finish unpacking before Leah's mom returned. When Joanne and Nora arrived half an hour later, the girls climbed into the van and started chattering excitedly, speculating on where Leah was going to find a job. They drove to the boulevard as they decided where to go for lunch. "How about Pier 18 Mall?" suggested Joanne. "That's a great idea, Mom," said Leah. "I'd like to scope out what kind of job opportunities they have there." They walked into the air-conditioned building, and Leah immediately noticed help wanted signs at several of the booths in the food court. There's a job waiting for you here for sure, said Allie. What do you feel like eating, Joanne asked them. Leah looked around the food court and noticed a help wanted sign at the Greek deli. How about a Greek salad? Sounds good to me, said Joanne, and the rest of them agreed. At the Greek deli, they gave the woman behind the counter their orders. I see you're looking for help, Leah mentioned to her at one point. That's right, she replied, sizing Leah up. Do you want an application? Yes, please, said Leah politely. She handed a piece of paper over the counter to Leah and then brusquely finished taking care of everyone's orders. They walked over to a booth which was nestled inside a restored fishing schooner and set their food on the table. Leah started digging in her purse for a pen. Sit down and eat, honey, her mother urged her. Hold on, Mom, I just need a pen to fill out this form, Leah said, preoccupied with reading the job application. Can't it wait until you've eaten? Joanne's voice took on a nagging tone. No, Mom, it can't. Besides, I'm too excited to eat. She looked at Allie sitting next to her, eating her lunch like a good little girl and trying to stay out of the line of fire. Allie can eat. She's got a job, but I have to make this happen now, insisted Leah, who prepared herself for battle. She pushed aside her tray and started writing. Joanne sighed heavily, not wanting to argue with her daughter, but she couldn't get past the fact that Leah looked so thin and bony to her. Honey, please don't take that tone with me now. I'm leaving tomorrow and we won't see each other for the rest of the summer. Joanne's eyes started to swim behind her glasses and she reached for a napkin. Leah put down the pen, moved the application to safer ground, and pulled her tray back over, guilted into taking a few bites of her salad and smart enough to know that this was not the time or place for her mother to be crying. Sorry, Mom, she mumbled around a forkful of lettuce. Hi, Linda. Joanne took her glasses off and dabbed at her eyes while the others continued eating in an uncomfortable silence. After a few moments, she sniffed and apologized to everyone. Sorry I got so emotional there. It's okay, Joanne, commiserated Nora. You've had such a hard time over the past year, and on top of it all, you're sending your first baby into the world. Hey, J1. Leah looked at her mother and smiled. Don't worry, Mom. I'm going to be fine. I guess I'm just a little nervous about finding a job. It's okay, honey, said Joanne, still not quite herself. You just fill out that application and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, you'll go to the next place. However, do you realize that you'll have to handle food at the Greek deli? Well, it's not like being a waitress, Leah said before adding, and I'll always have something to eat. That's true, said Joanne, who was constantly fretting over her daughter's poor eating habits. Leah moved aside her tray and got back to filling the form out as the others chattered about the benefits of working in the mall. It's very close by our house, said Allie. It's air-conditioned, said Nora. There are always people around, said Joanne. After a while, Leah stood up. Okay, she said, wish me luck. She headed over to the Greek deli, which was devoid of customers at the moment. The owner was in the back room and came out when she saw Leah standing there. Oh my, the James Patterson book. Wow, that was fast, she commented as Leah handed over the application. Well, I really need a job as soon as possible, Leah explained as the woman looked at the piece of paper. I see you've never worked with food before. No, not for money, but I often make the meals for my family at home, Leah lied, glad her mother wasn't standing next to her because she surely would have had a good laugh at that one. Okay, Leah, my name is Cassie. The job pays $3.50 an hour. Do you want to start training tomorrow? Well, sure. Leah was surprised that the woman seemed to be hiring her right on the spot. Leah practically skipped back to the table in the schooner with a wide grin on her face. Oh, here come the teeth, commented Joanne. It must be good news. I got the job, Leah squealed as quietly as possible, not wanting to call any attention to herself. Joanne hugged her daughter as they walked down the plank and headed for the front door. I have to come back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for training, Leah told them. Well, we want to be out of here by 9, said Nora, so why don't we plan on having breakfast together right before we leave? Hello, Italy. Leah and Allie nodded in agreement, and they all walked over to the van. I think I'd like to see what's up at the sandcastle, said Allie as they climbed into the stifling hot van. Good idea, Leah agreed. In fact, we might as well all go back to the motel so I can spend some time with my mom now that the pressure to find a paycheck is off. Allie secured her job as a hostess at the Sandcastle's dining room, and the two met outside before walking back to the Leeward. Bart is adorable, Allie gushed. Are you gonna go for it? Asked Leah. Well, maybe not right away. I have to make him beg a little first, she replied, a devilish smile playing on her pink frosted lips. I hope I meet someone soon, said Leah wistfully. At that moment, a car full of boys drove past them and hooted out the window. Guys can be such pigs, commented Allie, giving them the finger as they zoomed away. Back at the Leeward, the girl saw a man getting luggage out of a car. Do you think he's moving in? Leah whispered to Allie. Looks like it, Allie whispered back. Are we going to be living with all guys this summer or what? My mom would have a total fit, Leah muttered with a grin. As they approached the house, Doug waved to them. Hey, you two, come meet our new boarder. The man put down his suitcase and extended his hand to Allie. Hi, I'm Richard. Yes, I was on a ferry. Sometimes I'm on a ferry and sometimes I am just on a canal. Thank you, Cece. Okay, the man put down his suitcase and extended his hand to Allie. Hi, I'm Richard. Allie, she replied as she shook his hand, and this is Leah. Nice to meet you, he said, and shook her hand too. Well, we were just going up, so see you later, said Allie, and the two of them took off up the stairs to their room. What should we do tonight? Leah wondered once they were in their room. Why don't we go hang out on the porch for a while, suggested Allie. Doug's down there, and we can go see what he's all about. How would you rate him? Leah asked. Allie was the best at rating guys. Oh, his age makes him a 6. But he gets 1 bonus point for those blue eyes and a nice smile, so I'd have to give him a 7, she concluded. Wow, pretty impressive, Leah observed. Developing a crush, are we? No way, he's like 30. I prefer my men to be in their early 20s like Bart. Leah brushed her long hair until it ran smoothly down her back. How would you rate that guy, Richard? From what I saw, I'd say he's about a 4, but he drives a pretty nice car, so his final score would be 4.5. Come on, let's go. Hi, Jana. Out on the porch, Doug and Richard were having a beer. Hey, ladies, greeted Doug. He pointed to the case of beer that was standing next to the bench. Help yourselves. No thanks, said Allie. Leah grabbed one, though, and she struggled with the pop top until Doug took it out of her hands and deftly opened the can for her. Don't tell your mom, he said, blue eyes sparkling. Leah gave him a look and took a swig. Bubbles popped not unpleasantly in her mouth and down her throat. She swallowed hard, still unaccustomed to the bitter taste. After a few more sips, it started to taste better to her, and she drank it down happily, glad to not be seeing her mother until the next morning. The days of creeping home after field parties, smelling of cigarettes and beer, and trying to avoid kissing her mother goodnight had just come to an end, and Leah wanted to celebrate her new freedom. Halfway through drinking it, she began to get a slow buzz and felt more comfortable talking with the two men. I got a job, she told Doug. Oh yeah, where? In Pier 18 Mall at the Greek Deli. Cool, he turned to Allie. Did you get a job yet? Yeah, I'll be a hostess in the restaurant at the Sandcastle Suites. What do you do? Allie asked him. I'm a carpenter, he replied. She pointed at Richard. What about you? I'm not working this month. I'm on vacation, he declared, but back in Philadelphia, I'm an accountant. Just then, a car drove up and parked in front of the house. Richard raised his hand in greeting. That's my brother Todd, he told them. Todd got out of his Volkswagen Beetle and said, Hey, Rich, nice place you got here. Is he moving in too? Allie asked. Nah, answered Richard. He's got a place up in Shipwreck. Todd, this is Allie, Leah, and Doug. Todd nodded at everyone, and his eyes rested on Leah. Do they all live here? Yup, Richard answered and grabbed a can out of the case. Have a beer, man. Don't mind if I do, he said before taking a seat on the bench right next to Leah. Leah glanced at Todd and noticed that he was kind of hunky. Hey, he said, looking straight at her. We're going to the O Bar tonight. You guys want to join us? We can't get into a bar. We're not 21 yet, Allie scoffed at him. They never card at the O Bar, he assured her. What do you say, Al? Leah, 1 beer in, was feeling positively bold and adventurous by now. Nah, I'm exhausted. I'm just gonna go relax tonight. Get to sleep early, she said, yawning to prove her point. Leah boldly turned back to Todd. Well, if you want to risk it, then I'll tag along. Great, he smiled at her appreciatively. Just let me get changed first, okay? Take your time, Todd told her as she got up and walked back into the house. Up in the room, Leah rummaged through her closet, looking for something that might make her look older. She finally decided to wear her Calvin Klein jeans and a hot pink silk tank top, which she tucked in. Then she went over to the dresser and grabbed her eyeliner pencil. In front of the mirror, she rimmed her eyes, upper and lower lids, in black. Next, she applied some dark brown eyeshadow on both lids and highlighted the area below her brows. Some blush and some black mascara, and she was ready to go. She grabbed her brush and pulled it through her hair while she decided against taking a purse, thinking it better to have no ID than unacceptable ID, and she was ready to go. She ran over to the bureau and searched through her lipsticks until she found her Estee Lauder pink, applied it to her lips, and she was ready to go. She ran back to the closet, grabbed a sweater, and she was ready to go. She ran back to her purse, which was lying on the bed, and took out some money, just in case, and she was ready to go. She did an about-face and grabbed her purse, threw it under the bed, and she was ready to go. She actually put her hand on the doorknob before rushing back into the room to search for her key, which she found lying on the bureau, and she was ready to go. For real. She trotted down the steps and out the front door where Todd and Rich were still standing, drinking their beers. Todd seemed amazed by her transformation. Wow, no one would ever kick a girl that looks like you out of a bar. Leah blushed and smiled self-consciously. You sure you guys really want to risk it? Yes, Todd and Richard both said unanimously. Good luck, Leah, Allie told her, looking slightly worried. Oh, she'll be fine, Todd told Allie, making Leah wonder what they'd been saying about her when she was gone. The three of them walked over to Todd's car. Richard opened the passenger side door and got in the back seat so Leah could get in front. The little Volkswagen started up with a rumble, and Todd opened up his window. Mind if I turn on the radio? Leah asked him, already reaching for the knobs. Go right ahead, he replied, turning the car northward onto the main drag. She turned up the volume when she heard the song Maniac from the movie Flashdance. Leah and Allie had already seen that movie 3 times in the theater, and they just couldn't get enough of hearing the soundtrack. Just a steel town girl on a Saturday night, she sang before yelling, maybe a little too loudly, That's me! I'm a steel town girl! You're from Pittsburgh, are you? Todd replied, taking his eyes off the road to look at her. Are you a maniac? Maniac! His singing made her laugh, and when he turned his head forward, she stared at his profile and admired his straight nose and curly hair. He was looking more attractive to her all the time. When they got to the bar, they had to park in the next lot over because the place was packed. Feet crunching loudly on the gravel, they approached the bar, and Leah's heart caught in her throat at the sight of the man at the door, looking at IDs with a flashlight. Look at that guy, she whispered loudly and started to turn back for the car, but Todd put his arm around her shoulders and steered her towards the bar's entrance. Now just hold on, little lady. It ain't over till it's over. Just walk in with me, eyes straight. He squeezed her tight and reassured her. You can do it. As they approached the door, Leah noticed that the bouncer was looking intently at some boy's license, and she momentarily forgot her instructions as she stared at them like a deer facing headlights. The bouncer glanced up and her eyes darted immediately forwards. Todd had her in a tight grip as they passed by the bouncer without incident. Once inside, Leah let out a long breath she didn't even realize she was holding, and Todd pulled her by her hand through the swarm of people, Richard trailing right behind. The noise of people laughing and talking, music playing, suddenly hit her. She followed Todd to the end of the room, and he yelled, You could probably use a drink right about now. Leah nodded her head. What do you want? She surprised me, she replied with a smile. He impulsively kissed her before turning and working his way towards the bar. Leah was caught totally off guard by his kiss and avoided looking at Richard. She had a fluttery feeling in her chest, and she looked around the crowded room at other people. These clouds are really amazing. They've blocked out the sun. Leah was staring at a beautiful girl who was talking animatedly with an older man when Todd came back with 2 drinks in his hand, and she noticed that Richard was not there anymore. "What is this?" Leah took the drink she was handed and started to sip the sweet liquid from a straw. "A slow gin fizz." "Hey, Darla." Very tasty." It was much better than beer, and the alcohol in it was well disguised. His brown eyes gazed at her. "You're pretty tasty yourself." The fluttering feeling in her chest intensified, and she took a long pull of her drink, trying to keep calm in the wake of this new development. The things he was saying to her had never been said before, and she wondered if this could be love. Suddenly, and to her surprise, her glass was empty and he was bringing her another one. After that last drink, she'd been experiencing more than a buzz. In fact, she felt like her head was floating off her body as she sipped the drink and started to feel a little woozy. Todd looked at her with adoration and ran a finger down the line of her chin. He leaned down and whispered in her ear, "You look like you could use some fresh air." She turned her head to answer him, and her lips came very close to his, which he took full advantage of. His kiss was passionate and exciting, and she began to confuse alcohol intoxication with love intoxication. Led Zeppelin's Whole Lotta Love was pounding through the bar, and while she couldn't believe that she was letting a virtual stranger kiss her like this, she was most surprised that she was actually enjoying it. Still, she began to feel incredibly weak and tired and broke away from his lip lock. "I want to go outside," she slurred, and he took her by the hand, signaling with his free hand to his brother that it was time to leave. Next thing she knew, she was pressed against both Todd and the side of his Volkswagen, panting from a deluge of feelings that ranged from pie-in-the-sky love to nausea, both of which attributed to lightheadedness and her inevitable fall into the abyss that her peers usually referred to as plastered. Leah never actually passed out. She did manage to stay foggily aware of the lights and the noises one hears when one is lying face up in the back seat of a moving car. She was even lucid enough to smile at the thought of finally acquiring a story good enough to tell even her wildest friends. In the next moment, she inwardly cringed when she realized that it wasn't over yet. The car eventually stopped, and she found herself being helped out by a handsome stranger. What was his name? She let him pick her up with arms of steel and carry her to a park bench. As he gazed into her half-open eyes, she realized that the bench was spinning liquidly, and Leah turned her head just in the nick of time. The Red Sea parted, the heavens opened up, and out of her mouth spewed what, to the casual observer, might well have been blood. But to Leah, the taste was reminiscent of cherry juice and calories that would never find their way to her thighs. Luckily for her, Todd turned out to be a gentleman, holding her hair back as she barfed and offering to take her right home. When she was able to reassure him that she felt better, he picked her up and carried her back to the car, gently setting her down in the front seat. When they got back to the Leeward, it was still relatively early, but Leah was exhausted. "I hope I didn't ruin your night," she apologized to Todd, now thinking that she hoped she would never see him again. "Not at all," he answered, and kissed her on the top of her head before ambling back to his car. Leah fumbled with her key at the front door and dragged herself up the long flight of stairs. She unlocked the door to her room and headed straight for the dresser and grabbed her toiletries bag. She noticed Allie sleeping in her bed before going out the door and into the bathroom. Brushing her teeth, Leah thought about the evening and considered herself lucky that Todd didn't molest her. He really was a nice guy, but she felt supremely embarrassed by everything that had happened. Leah awoke the next morning feeling like her head was filled with rocks. "Oh, that's attractive," commented Allie from her bed when she saw the makeup that was smudged beneath Leah's eyes from the night before. "Thank you," Leah replied as she made her way to the bathroom. Wordlessly, the girls went about their morning rituals, towels, hair dryers, clothes, and makeup getting strewn all over the room. Allie broke the silence first. "Did everything go okay last night?" "Well, I got to the bar with no problem. Into the bar with no problem, but then I got wasted and ended up barfing slow gin fizz all over that guy, Todd." "No way," Allie began giggling uncontrollably. "You're a fun date." "Hope I never see him again," Leah lamented. "He was really into you. Did you do anything with him?" "Well, we were making out, but if he had any ideas about going further with me, I'm sure he changed his mind after I barfed on his shoes." "Hey, Daniel." When Joanne arrived at the Leeward to pick up the girls, her mood was upbeat. "How was your first night in your new house?" "It was great," Leah replied, hoping her mother wouldn't notice the slightly green pallor to her skin. "What did you do?" Allie wisely took over. "Oh, we were on the beach until it started getting dark, and then we came back here and just hung out on the porch for a while. Nothing major." They decided to have breakfast in a little round diner on the bay side of the island. Inside the odd-shaped building, there were no booths, and everyone sat at a circular counter next to each other. As a child, Leah had hated that diner because it was always crowded, and sometimes the family couldn't even sit together. On this day, however, Leah felt nostalgic about the place. Going there with her mother actually felt natural and right. After breakfast, they said their goodbyes by the van. Joanne was unable to hold back her tears as she hugged her daughter one last time. "Call me tomorrow from the payphone on the corner," she cried from the window of the van as it pulled away from the curb. Leah and Allie stood still like statues until the van was gone, and then all hell broke loose as the girls embraced their long-awaited freedom joyously before heading off to their respective jobs. "I'm free, do 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 do, I'm free." Leah sang it in her head like Roger Daltrey did in the movie Tommy when he broke through the mirror and realized that he could see, hear, and speak. She felt so lighthearted and happy, she practically skipped the whole way to the mall. For the next 4 hours, Leah learned how to use the cash register and make gyros. Cassie pronounced it gyros whenever Leah called them gyros. She showed Leah where everything was and let her wait on 2 customers. At 2 o'clock, Cassie told her to go home and come back at 10 in the morning. As she passed the Tupelo house on her way to the Leeward, the girls who were sitting on the porch called out to her. "Hey, did you just move into the Leeward?" Leah walked over to the porch. "Yup, me and my best friend from high school," she told them. "I'm Leah." "My name's Kathy," said the tall girl with long blonde hair before pointing to the rest of the girls, reciting, "That's Allison, Brandy, and that's Jane." "Hey," said Leah. All right, I'm going to end this here because sometimes it's hard to read for a long time, and it's been like almost an hour. Thank you for loving it, Darla. How many times have you read my book now yourself? Like 3 or 4. I love that about you. So anyway, that's my book. Do you think about me on my birthday? And yes, I am an author and a journalist. Twice, okay. Well, now it's 3 because I just read part of it to you. So I am going to take the dogs for a walk, and then I'm going to get back to work. I'm working on a new book today. It's called Still Standing by Joshua Hayes. And it's going to be the first book I've ever produced on my own. So I am super excited about it because Joshua is an amazing writer, and I feel so lucky that I have discovered him. All right, you guys. I'm going to show you one last view of this amazing cloud formation on this beautiful Monday morning. And I wish you a very good rest of your day. So ciao for now, and we'll see you on the next Beach Report. Bye, everyone.